Have you ever walked into a store to buy a single item, say, a flashlight, and walked out with batteries, a spare bulb, and somehow a camping tent?
Only every single time. It feels like a lapse in self-control, doesn't it? But actually, you're just walking right into a carefully designed economic web. It's not an accident, it's architecture.
That is exactly what we are digging into today. We often think of products as these lonely islands. You know, I buy a phone, I buy a coffee, I buy a car. But the market doesn't see it that way.
Not at all. In the eyes of the market, every product is either fighting a war or building a marriage. We're talking about the concepts of substitutes and complements. And while those sound like dry textbook terms from an Econ 101 class, they are actually the invisible forces dictating prices, innovation, and even the future of your job.
A war or a marriage. I like that. So, let's start with the war. The substitutes. On the surface, this seems obvious. If the price of beef skyrockets, I buy chicken. Simple, right?
That's the classic example. But if you stop there, you miss the real drama. A substitute is anything that solves the same problem for the consumer. Sure, Pepsi is a substitute for Coke, but think bigger. What is the substitute for an airline ticket?
Another airline? Or maybe a train if it's a short distance.
Or a Zoom call. See, that's where it gets interesting. For years, airlines thought they were competing with other airlines. Then 2020 hit, and they realized their biggest substitute wasn't a competitor's plane. It was high-speed internet. When the price or friction of travel became too high, people didn't switch to Delta. They switched to digital presence.
That's a massive shift in perspective. It means companies are often looking in the wrong direction for the threat.
Exactly. Netflix's CEO once famously said that their biggest competitor wasn't HBO or Disney, it was sleep.
Sleep?
Sleep. Because the ultimate resource isn't money, it's time. If you're sleeping, you aren't consuming content. So, sleep is a substitute for entertainment. That is the level of ruthlessness we are dealing with here.
That is actually kind of terrifying. It turns the market into a zero-sum game for our attention. But let's flip the coin. Let's talk about the marriages. The complements.
Right. Complements are products that are consumed together. The classic peanut butter and jelly. If the price of peanut butter drops, sales of jelly go up because people are making more sandwiches. But in the modern tech world, complements are where the real money is made. It's the razor and blade model.
Oh, the bane of my existence. I buy a printer for $50, which seems like a steal. And then I spend $50 a month on ink for the rest of my life.
Precisely. The printer is the loss leader. They might even lose money selling it to you. But the ink? That's liquid gold. They've locked you in. This is why complements are so powerful they create dependency. You can't use the software without the hardware. You can't play the video game without the console.
It feels like this has evolved, though. It's not just physical goods anymore. It's ecosystems. I'm thinking about Apple here.
Apple is the master of this. They have weaponized the concept of complements. Think about it. The iPhone is a great product on its own, but then you buy the AirPods. Then the Apple Watch. Then you subscribe to iCloud. Each of those things makes the other things more valuable.
And harder to leave.
Exactly. If you switch to Android, you don't just lose your phone. You render your watch useless, your earbuds lose functionality, and your cloud storage is a mess. That is negative cross-elasticity, weaponized into a trillion-dollar business strategy. They aren't just selling you a product, they are building a walled garden where every flower complements the others, and the wall is too high to climb over.
So, complements create stability for companies, but traps for consumers.
In a way, yes, but they also drive value. The reason your smartphone is so useful is because of the millions of apps the complements that developers build for it. A smartphone with no apps is just a glowing brick. So, we benefit from these marriages, even if we pay a premium for them.
I want to push this a bit deeper. We've talked about goods, but what happens when we apply this framework to people, to labor, because this is where the anxiety sets in for a lot of us.
This is the billion-dollar question of the AI era. Is technology a substitute or a complement to human labor?
Right. Because historically, it's been both. The tractor was a substitute for the guy with a shovel, but it was a complement to the guy who knew how to fix engines.
Perfect analogy. When a new technology arrives, it usually substitutes tasks but complements skills. If you are a translator and an AI can translate text instantly for free, the AI is a substitute. Your market value drops to zero. But if you are a storyteller who uses AI to generate ideas faster, the AI is a complement. It makes you more productive, potentially increasing your value.
But the line is moving so fast. It feels like things that were complements yesterday are becoming substitutes today.
That is the danger zone. We call it the encroachment of the substitute. Look at graphic design. 10 years ago, Photoshop was a complement to a designer. You still needed the artist's eye. Now, with generative image models, the software is starting to make the creative decisions. It's moving from being a tool in your hand to being the hand itself.
That's a chilling thought. From the tool to the hand. So, if you want to survive in this economy, you need to position yourself as a complement to the machine, not a substitute for it.
You have to be the thing the machine cannot operate without. You have to be the razor that holds the blade. If you are just doing repetitive, cognitive work, calculating, sorting, basic writing, you are the blade, and you are about to be replaced by a cheaper, sharper version. But if you provide judgment, empathy, ethics, complex strategy, those are things AI currently needs to function effectively. You become the complement.
It's interesting how this economic concept, just simple supply and demand stuff, suddenly turns into a philosophical crisis about human worth.
Economics always does that if you dig deep enough. It's the study of how we value things. And right now, the market is aggressively re-evaluating the price of human contribution.
Let's circle back to the consumer side for a second. We talked about how companies use complements to lock us in. Is there any way out, or are we just destined to be stuck in these ecosystems forever?
The market eventually corrects itself, usually through the emergence of a perfect substitute.
A perfect substitute?
Think about cable TV. For decades, you had to buy the bundle. You wanted ESPN, the complement, you had to buy the whole cable package, the base product. It was a forced marriage. Consumers hated it. Then, streaming came along. It wasn't just a different way to watch TV, it unbundled the package. It broke the forced complement.
And now, ironically, all the streaming services are bundling back together because it's too expensive to buy them separately.
Time is a flat circle. We are recreating cable TV because the economics of complements are undeniable. Bundling reduces friction. It's easier to pay one bill than 10. So, even though we hate the trap, we often walk right back into it for the sake of convenience.
So, convenience is the bait.
Always, we trade freedom for convenience every single day.
I want to look at a weird example. What about products that seem unrelated but act as complements? I read somewhere about diapers and beer.
Ah, the famous data mining legend. The story goes that a retailer analyzed their data and found a huge correlation between diaper sales and beer sales on Friday evenings.
Which makes zero sense on the surface.
Until you think about the lifestyle, new dads, exhausted, tasked with buying diapers for the weekend. They can't go to the bar anymore, their social life has been substituted by parenting. So, they buy beer to drink at home. The beer is a complement to the diapers because they represent a specific demographics Friday night reality.
That is brilliant. It shows that complements aren't always functional, like gas in cars. Sometimes they are situational. They are psychological.
Exactly. And that is where modern data analytics is going. They aren't just looking for, does this plug into that? They are looking for, does this emotion trigger that purchase? If you are buying comfort food, maybe you are also likely to buy a weighted blanket. Those are psychological complements.
It makes you wonder how much free will we actually have in the grocery aisle.
Very little. The layout of the store, the frequently bought together tab on Amazon, it's all an algorithm optimizing for compliments. They are trying to increase the size of your basket by predicting your next desire before you even feel it.
So, to wrap this up, whether it's the war of substitutes or the marriage of compliments, we are basically walking through a minefield of incentives.
A minefield or a playground, depending on how you look at it. Innovation happens because of this pressure. If there were no substitutes, companies would never improve. If there were no complements, products would be useless in isolation.
That's a fair point. We get better phones, better streaming, and better coffee because of these forces. But it does require us to be a bit more awake at the wheel.
Absolutely. The next time you see a bundle deal or the next time you feel loyal to a brand, ask yourself, am I loyal because it's the best option? Or am I loyal because the cost of switching to a substitute is just too high?
And for our listeners worrying about their jobs, ask yourself, am I the tractor or am I the driver?
Be the driver. Always be the driver.
That feels like the perfect place to leave it. We'll be back next week to dismantle another part of the invisible machine. Until then, watch your wallet.
And watch your compliments.